Alright guys, today we'll be adding the fourth piece of the puzzle that fits into our thesis that we are transitioning from the shakeout stage to the rising bull stage. I have found a signature on the Dixie and Bitcoin chart that is going to blow your mind. Alright, so let's get started. Bitcoin and the US dollar currency index, Dixie, DXY. And we are going to go over a signature that I found between these two charts that adds to our thesis that we might be seeing the end of the bear market. Not right away, but very soon. Keep in mind guys, this is only one piece of the puzzle to the story that we've been formulating over the past week or so, right? So if you guys have missed those videos, I urge you guys to go ahead and watch those previous videos too, because the holistic story together is what is more important, not just one single signature. All right, let's begin. I want to first explain what exactly I've done over here. As you guys can see, we have Bitcoin on the top panel, and on the bottom panel over here, we have the US dollar currency index, Dixie. And what I've essentially done, guys, is I've taken two EMAs and I've overlaid them on top of the US dollar currency. So I'm going to first expand the US dollar currency index right over here. We'll come back to Bitcoin in a bit. And I want to tell you guys what I've done over here, okay? Like I said, we've taken two EMAs. The green is the 55 EMA right over here, and the purple is the 200 EMA. Now you guys can find these EMAs on your default indicator list, or you can use the mango ribbon. That's what I'm using right over here, right? Simply turn off all the other EMAs that you guys have access to and keep only your green EMA and your purple EMA. Now the mango ribbon is completely free. It's really useful for those of you who are using the free version of TradingView, because TradingView doesn't allow you guys to have more than I think 2 or 3 indicators on your chart, but the mango ribbon will allow you to have multiple EMAs, SMAs, as well as the Tenkin Kijun and the cloud, right? All packaged within one indicator. So if you guys want access to this indicator, simply join our Discord at themangoway.com/Discord, shoot me or Krisha a PM, and we'll give you access to the indicator. Okay, cool. Once you guys have that set up, right, what I want you guys to focus on now is essentially the crosses between these two indicators, the green and the purple. Okay. When you see the green 55 cross under the 200 EMA, that's when we have a dead cross. Now I know most other people like to use the 200 SMA and the 50 SMA. I like to use the 55 EMA and the 200 EMA. It especially works better for crypto. So that's what we're going to be looking for. All right. The green underneath the purple EMA right over here. That's going to be our dead cross. Now I'm going to go ahead and expand Bitcoin again, and I'm going to show you guys what I've done. Each time we've got a dead cross on the Dixie chart, right? I've gone ahead and I've marked it out on the Bitcoin chart as well, right? So right over here, you guys can see, okay, right over here, you guys can see my cursor. We had a dead cross on Dixie coming in around the 26th of June, 2020, right? Well, I've gone ahead and put in a vertical line on the Dixie chart as well as on the Bitcoin chart, okay? Now I've gone through all of Bitcoin's history and I've marked out each one of the dead crosses as well as the relevant golden crosses that we need to keep an eye on. Now what's a golden cross, guys? It's simply the opposite, right? It's when the green crosses over the 200 EMA, right? So again, remember guys, the dead cross is when the green crosses underneath the EMA. Let me go ahead and show you guys an example really quick right over here. Right, we can see that right over here we had a death cross. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle right over there for you guys. That was a death cross, and right over here this would be a golden cross because the green went over the 200 EMA. Over here the green went underneath the 200 EMA. Okay, now we're going back to Bitcoin. We're going to hide Dixie for a bit, and I want to show you guys all of the markings that we've done. Okay, we've marked out each one of the golden crosses that Dixie has had through Bitcoin's history from 2012 all the way to 2020. And you guys can see that we don't have all that many. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 death crosses. Only 6 death crosses, guys. And each one of these have had important implications on what Bitcoin did in the weeks and months to come, right? You guys can see that we had some significant rallies. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these dead crosses and see what it has meant for Bitcoin. And we're going to start with the most recent one, which was, believe it or not, guys, all the way back in 2020, June 2020 to be a little bit more specific. So that was more than 2 years ago. So let's go ahead and see what that did for Bitcoin. Okay, we're going to again put Dixie down for a bit and we're going to focus on Bitcoin. We're going to see that we got our dead cross on Dixie while Bitcoin was sitting at around $9,000. And what did that do for Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin went on a nice little mini run for a good 50% and then on a mega run all the way up to $60,000. That was a 664% move. Okay. Now, what about the previous death cross? Well, the previous death cross actually came in a tad bit before, all the way in 2019, right? So this, by the way, guys, I've labeled as a fake cross. You guys can see that right over here in light blue. I've labeled it as fake cross. What does that mean? Well, a fake cross is when you get a dead cross, let's say like this, right? Let's say this is a dead cross, right? And then almost immediately price action makes the cross back into a golden cross, right? So you have a double cross almost immediately, where at this point you have your dead cross and at this point you get your golden cross, right? So this right over here, guys, was an example of a fake cross. In December 2019, we got the dead cross right over here, and then a few weeks later we got a recross, a golden cross. And I want you guys to notice that even though this was a fake cross, Bitcoin still had a pretty good run, right? For a few weeks, Bitcoin ran from around 7,700 all the way up to 10,500, a good 40% to 50% move. And guys, this was the prelude to the COVID dump, right? The market having a dead cross and an immediate golden cross right after was an indication of a sudden rush back into dollars, right? The market going risk off from initially trending into a risk on environment, right? So again, to take a step back, guys, when you see the dollar put in a dead cross, it is an indication of the market trending into a risk on environment, right? Because the dollar having a dead cross is a sign of liquidity entering the market again, right? And liquidity cycles line up very well with Bitcoin bull market cycles. But we suddenly got a golden cross. That was essentially the market sniffing out trouble, in my opinion, and we used our TA to sniff out the same at Mango. If you guys have been watching since 2019, you guys will remember that we used simple technical analysis and Ichimoku to trade perfectly from 7,700 to that 10,500 region. But at the time, we weren't looking at Dixie all that closely, right? If we had found this relationship back then and noticed that Dixie actually had a golden cross right at the time when we were flipping bearish on Bitcoin, we would have had that much more confidence in our conviction to trade towards the downside. So let's go ahead and find the next example now where Dixie had a dead cross. Remember, guys, the last dead cross was in 2019, and that was a fake cross. The real dead cross was only on the cycle of 2020. The one prior to that was all the way back in 2017 over here, guys. Okay, Bitcoin was sitting at around $1,800. And after that, it had a run from 1,800, 1,900 all the way to 20,000, right? Yeah, it had pullbacks on the way, right? Mini cycles, but the big cycle, the big liquidity cycle pushed Bitcoin all the way to $20,000, right? Now, here's the thing, guys. Notice this. You cannot wait for a golden cross on Dixie to call the top, right? Over here, it worked really well, right? Pre-COVID dump, it worked really well, but we were still in a mini bear market back then. If you waited for the golden cross on Dixie to get out of the market, well, you would have been selling over here around $7,000. So this exercise I'm showing you guys is really good for understanding when the liquidity is entering the market, especially when you get a death cross, because it lines up with a nice Bitcoin rally, right? But do not try to use this to time bottoms and time tops. Remember what we're doing over here, guys. This is one piece of a bigger puzzle that we're putting together, right? And so far, this piece of the puzzle is fitting in really, really well, because each time you get that death cross, Bitcoin tends to go on a nice little run, right? Okay, so again, 2017, nice little run. 2020 we showed, right over here, guys, nice little run, right? But remember, prior to the 2020 run, we had a mini run in 2019 with a drawdown, a 50% drawdown before we got the big run, right? Did we have something like that in 2017? Because remember, 2017 was the big run. Did we have a mini run and a drawdown before the big run? And you guys can see that yes, we did, right? In 2016, just a year prior, right? Let's go ahead and mark it down right over here. I'm going to write down 2016, right? We had a death cross on Dixie right over there, a nice mini run. Let's go ahead and see how much that was. A good 90% run. Not bad at all. And then we had a drawdown of around, I would say, 40% before the big run, right? So not as drastic of a drawdown as COVID, but a drawdown nonetheless, right? So again, let's find the signature here, guys. 2016, we had a death cross, mini run, and then a pullback. Then we got the big run. Then again, 2019, death cross, mini run, pullback, and then the big run in 2020, right? So do we see something similar again over here, guys? Do we see a mini run, a pullback, and then a big run? Remember, markets don't behave that perfectly. So far, we are beginning to notice a particular signature, right, that we can use and keep at the back of our mind as part of the puzzle all coming together, right? So now let's go ahead and take a look at our last example. And this is coming in all the way back in 2012, right? The infamous Bitcoin super cycle where we had two big runs. And even over here, guys, you're noticing two Dixie death crosses, right? One over here, which was a fake cross, right? This came in October 2012 approximately. And even though this was a fake cross, Bitcoin had a pretty good run, a pretty goddamn good run actually. That was a good 1500% move. If you go all the way up to the high, that's a 2000% move. That was huge, right? But keep in mind, Bitcoin was so young back then. It was still in the dollar range, single digits. It ran from around $7 all the way up to $253, had a big pullback, right? This pullback is huge, 80% pullback from wick to high, but use candle closes, we're looking at around 72%. So that's why it's considered a super cycle, because it didn't draw down all that much, only 70%, and then another huge run not long after, right? But we did get a death cross on Dixie right over here at $122 Bitcoin. Dixie had a death cross, which initiated the next big run, right? So that liquidity cycle, guys, is playing a huge role in every one of Bitcoin's big runs, right? And we're noticing a initial run, a pullback, another death cross on Dixie, and then the big run, right? We've seen it in 2012, 2013, 2016, 2017, and finally 2019 and 2020, right? So now the big question is, do we see something similar in 2023, right? A nice little run, a pullback, and then a big run in 2024. Okay, that is the big question. Do we see another liquidity cycle run? Because remember, guys, each time we get a death cross on Dixie, it is indicating liquidity trending in the market, right? And I've been monitoring Dixie now for the past couple of weeks, keeping an eye on this death cross. Dixie's most recent price action may actually prompt a aggressive quick death cross, right? Look how fast this green 55 EMA is moving towards the downside. This would essentially have our death cross coming in sooner than later. So we could literally pull this a little bit more forward over here, because if this keeps moving down like this, guys, right? And even if the 200 EMA simply moves sideways, we could see the death cross coming in around end of Jan 2023. The latest, considering we don't see any crazy move on Dixie between now and then. So as things stand, we can forecast out a potential Dixie death cross and mark it on to Bitcoin's chart. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. Now remember, guys, this is just a rough estimate, right? Let's just say around Jan to Feb 2023, right? So we'll go ahead and drop that right over here. And if we do see that death cross, guys. That would indicate another liquidity cycle lining up with a bottom on Bitcoin, right? Putting in a bottom on Bitcoin around 6 to 10 weeks from now, and then the bull run. And doesn't that look familiar to you guys? Over the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at a few charts. We've been looking at the on-chain metrics chart. We've been looking at the minor matrix chart. We've been also looking at the hash rate chart, right? And every one of those charts was pointing to Bitcoin not bottoming right away, right? But in around 6 to 10 weeks, maybe a little bit more, putting in a rounded formation and then having its run, right? Well, guess what? If we do see that Dixie cross, that's going to line up with the fourth piece of the puzzle, which is going to be the liquidity re-entering the market, guys. And this is an important piece of the puzzle. Liquidity drives markets. So we have some ways to go and we still have to wait for confirmation. So don't get ahead of yourselves, right? We don't have the death cross just yet. And even then, the signature at the moment is pointing to the fact that we get a mini run, a pullback, and then the big run, right? So don't get ahead of yourselves, guys. Maybe we see resistance at around 48,000. And I have a few more charts to discuss with you guys coming up in the future videos. So hey, if you guys have been enjoying this kind of content, please let me know in the comments down below, because your feedback is super encouraging. Your most recent comments have been motivating me to keep this going. These videos have not been easy to put together. They're really time consuming and takes away from my trading time. So let me know that you guys have been enjoying this content and hit the like button. Your feedback and motivation has been super encouraging. All right, so to conclude, we now have the fourth piece of our puzzle, the liquidity piece, coming in from the Dixie death cross, right? When do we see it? Do we see it in Jan or do we see it in Feb? That's going to be our confirmation for a potential Bitcoin run. Is it going to be a mini run or is it going to be the big run? That's left to be seen. But hey, the puzzle fits into the bigger picture that we've been talking about. Remember, the on-chain metrics too, we talked about this in detail, has a potential peak coming in right over here that could lead to this lining up with what we're seeing on Bitcoins and Dixie comparison that we did today. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how hash rate is likely peaking, but before we see any reprieve on minor sell pressure, we do need to see this come down. And hey, if you guys go ahead and take a look at an updated chart of this, right, you're going to see that hash rate has been coming down. Finally, we talked about the 4 stages of the mining cycle, right? This matrix right over here. And we discussed how we don't think that we are in the inventory flush out stage, nor are we in the rising bull stage, but we are more so in the transition between the shakeout stage and the rising bull stage, right? So we're sitting somewhere around here. All of this is lining up, guys, and I have more charts for you guys coming to add to our story, right? So if you guys are new here and haven't subscribed, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the Mango family. I'll see you guys in the Discord. Until next time, ciao.